this is Dragonfly. Obviously its most striking feature is the inverted leading edge. But then it also has a rounded off lock here. So far I've gotten really good flight times on this thing, upwards of 15 seconds. Well, and this is how you fold it. So, fold it in half. Not too difficult. So, then a point here. Very light crease though, because this is only used as a reference. Then it's opened up. Then take the front, fold it to the edge of the 45 point there, and then lightly crease this too. And then another reference there, another lightly crease. And finally the last light crease for now. So then take that line and fold it to there. So there's a nice valley crease right in between those two mountain pinches. Fold this up. And I like to fold it in half just to make sure these are aligned and symmetrical. But it's not technically necessary. Okay, so this crease here, you fold back on that, but again, just leave it a light crease. So then you take the corner there and fold it to the back middle crease right there. Then a pinch at the center there, and a pinch at the edge. Repeat on the other side. Pinch in the middle, pinch on the edge. Intersection, all that's good. Then that gets unfolded and never touched again. So, flip it over now, and you fold this point here to the back edge of that reference that was just folded. And fold it like that. This will become the backbone of, well, the entire plane really. And then repeat. I like to do this for symmetry, though not technically necessary. And then continue that down there. Now, to get the center crease aligned, I like to collapse it like this. Another step that you could do differently, but this is just how I like to do it. Repeat on the other side. Then open it up and squash fold. Folded that the wrong way, so I'll just have to fold that under here, and then that'll be a little wispy. It just doesn't matter what it ends up looking like. It'll stay out of the way. Okay. Now I like to just fold a little pinch crease right here. That'll be used later. Then we take the point and fold it to that edge there. This is what's going to become the backbone of the LaFosse lock up in the front. So then, in order, well, yeah, fold this back too, and that'll get unfolded in a second. Now, take this edge right here, where the crease earlier went. You start this fold here and continue it until this point reaches the edge of, well, the leading edge of the plane. Boring basics, repeat it on the other wing. Then this gets folded over again. So this slightly reinforces the leading edge, and really its most important feature is it just moves the CG much further forward than if the layers were built up back there. Then this gets opened up, and one of my favorite folds of the plane. So you have to open up this pocket here, but then hold it on the crease that was made right there when this got folded over again. So then that gets a good old squash fold, and then you fold this back up to line up with this crease here. The accuracy of this doesn't really matter too much because it gets hidden in the plane, and because this is a circling glider, a little bit of asymmetry doesn't really hurt it. And then repeat on the other side. And this layer here, like I said earlier, just push it around wherever necessary. Then fold up here, try to approximate symmetry. One reference I like to use is this point coming to there, but I didn't do that on the other side, so I'll just do it a little bit short of that. Fold that down, make sure all the layers are happy, nothing's out of place. I like to just push it down, then open up the pocket like this. So another good idea, just run down here, push everything down, then crease this to the center. I like to run this out, just let any of the slack get pulled out, well, pushed out really. So then those pinch creases of earlier, you can see those are gonna slot in under there and lock the layers. I'm just going to go ahead and do those right now. Gets a little annoying back here because it's such a narrow piece. But then, good old repeat rules. Fold to symmetry. Then that gets folded down there, and you fold this up and do the layers like this. You can start to see where, well, how really the LaFosse lock is going to be implemented, because it'll use those layers there. Generally, at this point, it's easiest to just slot those under there. Obviously, the layers don't sit when we fold that in half. Well, really, this step really helps. You fold these little petals out. And once more, squeeze the bubbles out of here and just tension it. Now we take it in half. So for the wing crease, we take about 1/3 of this base here, and that's what ends up being the height of the fuselage. Somewhere between 1/2 and 1/3 of that area is generally optimal. However, it doesn't matter all too much, and I've tested with various configurations. This thing can range from being a mediocre dart / glider to a really, really good duration glider. So then fold the other wing to match. Now, you take these wingtips, fold them up, once more, create the winglet on the other side. Or sharklet if you're at Airbus. Those don't matter anymore for the moment. So I'm going to take this layer here, and that will go up to create the LaFosse lock. There's going to be somewhat stiff layers up at the leading edge right here. You just got to maneuver around them. I generally leave a little bit of slack right up next to there so that there is so there's less of a chance of it ripping. And then you fold the center crease to the fuselage, or to the wing line there. And repeat on the other side. Make sure it's more or less symmetrical. Now you have the LaFosse lock. Now there is a simpler way to do the rest of it. You could fold this up and just compact it, or even shove it under here as a simpler method of doing it. It works just fine, but it isn't quite as aerodynamic as having a full-on wraparound lock. So I'm going to go do that. So here's the most complicated step. You have to start out with a LaFosse lock and then pop this out as you're folding the plane in half and pushing these layers up helps. And then also there's that little layer there. You have to be very careful to make sure that ends up staying in the lock. So you can see the layers there line up pretty nicely. And then you end up with this. Several ways to do this. Easiest one is to just do that, but I'm gonna keep this back and collapse it like that. Then take this pedal, fold it back on both sides, and that will become, well, it's not a relevant piece, but it'll do stuff later. Then along this crease you fold up the little spiky bit there. And I guess also you could fold this into like a slingshot hook. There's many things you could do with this little hook, but this is just what I choose to do with it. and then you collapse it just like this. Now I refrain from hard creasing that until I've got the rough outline, well, until I've got this folded back. That just helps make sure that nothing's going to go wrong, because there's a lot of thick layers, and this, if you're not careful, could fairly easily rip. To press down on that, it's got a lot of thick layers, which is kind of annoying, but I couldn't figure out a good way to avoid it. So you then just pivot that back up. And then you see where those two little corners line up. You just fold that up. And then this becomes probably the most annoying fold of the plane. You squash fold it on either side, making careful to make sure it's more or less symmetrical. Then one step that I like to do, but is purely cosmetic, is this little point here, how it isn't straight from that and that, how it's a little bit of an angle. If you leave that as is, it's going to stick out of the bottom here a little bit. So I like to just fold that back up in, but it's purely cosmetic. So there's no importance in doing it. It's also just a annoying little fold. So just that tiny little thing. And then crease that back there, and also those came out, and then re-squash fold that down. This will become the rounded off lock. Now I put those back in there, and now where everything really starts to truly come together. So in order to get this into position, this doesn't want to sit flat here because it goes next to there. So you have to be fairly careful, because again, it really does not sit like that. You have to go straight into the lock. It has that little spike down, which I'm not the proudest of, but it also doesn't matter all too much. So then the last thing is you take these layers here, and just to thin it out, you push them back under this pocket here. That just helps make it look nicer, though it doesn't really help with layers. And then that little nose lock is done. Then the wings you fold back down. It's really annoying right here. And because it's a LaFosse lock, it's prone to ripping right there. Then lastly, a completely optional thing. There are many different things you could do for a tail lock. You could do another LaFosse lock. You could do a layer wraparound right here, which is the most aerodynamic. But generally, I haven't had the greatest success with it. So I don't do it. However, it can be done, and it should theoretically reduce drag. But then, when the plane is done, generally needs a decent amount of up elevator, but it's capable of withstanding pretty hard throws. I mean, it's pretty sturdy, other than this spot here. And yeah, it has, if I just trim it up, generally something around that much up trim is good. However, obviously with each plane it differs. And that's Dragonfly.